Another important factor when you're thinking about your career is just to be aware that the oil industry is quite cyclical. So you're going to get booms and busts. And if you are isolated to the North American market, your chances are having very slow years where your income is low is quite high. You're also subject to different weathers like hurricanes in the Gulf and whatnot. But if you're international and you're working for on a much larger project or in an area where they have profitability even at very low oil prices, you have a much more resilience and continuous income, because they're not just going to shut down a project that there's several $billion invested in and then wait for the market to come back. The time horizon and the thinking is so much more long term that they can ride out those booms and busts. In Canada, you also have what we call breakup. So in the spring, the oil industry basically comes to a stop simply because the frost is coming out of the ground and we have axle load limits and we can't move the rigs into the farmers' fields because they'll just become mud, but also because it'll damage the roads and the highways. So we're just legally, we can't move the rigs. So we get breakup in the spring. You'll get kind of spotty work over the summer. You could have high rains, which prevent you being able to move the rig into a farmer's field on a lease. Or you could have a drought where you don't have a whole lot of rain that year and you're not allowed to drill because of the water consumption. So they prioritize agriculture and not depleting that water table. As fall comes, you're going to get a buildup of projects starting. And then in the winter, usually it's the peak season around November into March, April. That's your peak season. So you want to get as much work as you can in there. Understand that you're going to have a very slow season in the spring, typically. In Canada, this is specifically, and then it's patchy work through the summer. Unless you get on a triple in the mountains in the Rockies, then you're going to have some work that's can be year-round in Canada. But those are very few and far between, and chances of you getting those kind of gigs are limited. Another thing to think about is if the rig shut down, they don't need trucking, they don't need cementing services, casing services, wireline services, fishing services, any of these services. So all the supporting industries around the oil and gas, the drilling rigs themselves, they also will be suffering because they don't have the drilling rigs operating. For myself, I prefer international work. It's much more steady, it's much more interesting. To me, it's just a much more engaging environment to be in and a much more stable income. If there's any topic you're interested in, just leave a note in the comments and I'll do my best to address it. Thanks for watching.